Bacon is one of the most recognizable cured meats sold in grocery stores. That word uncured on the label means something very different than most people assume. Curing is a preservation process that has shaped meat production for over a century. This is Grocery Science. Today, we look at what is really inside bacon and cured meats. The asterisk next to uncured often points to fine print, worth reading closely. Traditional curing uses sodium nitrite directly. Alternative curing uses nitrate-rich celery powder. By the end of this video, you will read that bacon label very differently. Bacon can fit an occasional diet. Understanding the curing process helps you decide how often. Curing preserves meat, controls dangerous bacteria, and creates bacon's familiar pink color. Nitrite reacts with myoglobin in meat, producing the characteristic pink color of cured products. Nitrite's most important function is inhibiting Clostridium botulinum, the bacteria causing botulism. Curing became essential centuries before refrigeration made meat storage significantly safer. USDA rules require curing with nitrite or nitrate for meats legally sold as bacon or ham. Manufacturers can cure meat using synthetic sodium nitrite or nitrate-rich celery powder. Celery powder is made by concentrating vegetables that are naturally very high in nitrates. Bacteria in the curing process convert those celery-derived nitrates into active nitrites. Food scientists note the resulting nitrite compound is essentially identical, regardless of its source. Laboratory testing has found comparable and sometimes higher nitrite levels in celery-cured meat. Current USDA rules still require these celery-cured products to be labeled as uncured. Multiple food scientists describe this labeling gap as a technicality, not a meaningful difference. The health conversation around cured meat centers on compounds formed during high-heat cooking. At high cooking temperatures, nitrites can react with amines to form nitrosamines. Some nitrosamines are genotoxic, meaning they can directly damage DNA within cells. In 2015, the World Health Organization classified processed meat as a Group 1 carcinogen. Group 1 reflects how strong the evidence is, not how large the actual risk is. Daily smoking raises lung cancer risk dramatically more than typical processed meat consumption raises colorectal risk. Eating 50 grams of processed meat daily was associated with an 18% higher colorectal cancer risk. That figure describes relative risk. Absolute individual risk increase is generally much smaller. This classification applies to processed meat broadly, regardless of whether nitrite is synthetic or celery-derived. Switching from synthetic nitrite to celery powder curing does not change this cancer classification. Lower cooking temperatures can reduce, though not eliminate, nitrosamine formation during preparation. Some methods, like microwaving on paper towels, may reduce nitrosamine formation compared to frying. Some studies suggest vitamin C and vitamin E may help block nitrosamine formation during cooking. Many manufacturers now add ascorbic acid, a form of vitamin C, for exactly this reason. Sodium ascorbate appearing alongside nitrite on a label often serves this protective function. Curing also relies heavily on salt, making cured meats naturally high in sodium. A few strips of bacon can represent a meaningful share of daily recommended sodium. Regular high sodium intake is associated with elevated blood pressure and cardiovascular risk over time. Sodium levels vary across cured meat types, with some deli products running especially high. Bacon is also relatively high in saturated fat compared to leaner protein alternatives. Most dietitians recommend moderation for bacon rather than complete elimination for the general population. Some cancer prevention organizations specifically recommend limiting processed meat consumption frequency. Risk research is generally built around regular, frequent consumption rather than occasional meals. Occasional bacon within a broadly balanced diet differs meaningfully from daily heavy consumption. Turkey bacon generally offers less saturated fat, though sodium levels can remain similar. Checking sodium specifically matters, since some turkey bacon carries comparable sodium to pork versions. Thicker-cut bacon generally contains more calories and fat per serving than standard cuts. Heme iron in red and processed meat has also been studied for its own health associations. Bacon does provide meaningful protein per serving, alongside its sodium and saturated fat content. Overall, bacon is calorie-dense, protein-containing, and consistently high in sodium. Investigative food journalists have specifically examined this uncured labeling requirement in detail. Look for the asterisk. It typically points to text mentioning celery powder as the curing agent. That fine print usually reads, "except those naturally occurring in celery powder or juice." Consumer advocacy groups petitioned USDA in 2019 for clearer labeling on this exact issue. That petition was not adopted, and the current labeling framework remains largely unchanged. Several meat scientists have publicly stated there is no meaningful safety reason for the label difference. Traditionally cured meats have defined nitrite limits, while celery-cured products are not held to the same limit. Reading past the front label word "uncured" to the ingredient list provides real clarity. If either sodium nitrite or celery powder appears, the product has been chemically cured. Organic certified bacon still typically uses celery powder curing, since organic rules limit synthetic nitrite. Organic certification restricts synthetic ingredients but does not eliminate nitrite exposure from cured meat. A genuinely nitrite-free product must avoid both synthetic nitrite and nitrate-rich vegetable powders. Fresh, unprocessed pork belly without any curing agent remains the only truly nitrite-free option. Celery-cured products are frequently priced higher despite carrying comparable nitrite exposure. Understanding this labeling gap lets you choose cured meat intentionally, not just by marketing. Cooking cured meat at moderate rather than very high heat may reduce nitrosamine formation. Oven baking and microwaving are generally gentler cooking methods than direct high-heat frying. Heavily charred or blackened edges carry the highest concentration of heat-formed compounds. Trimming the most charred portions is one simple way to reduce that specific exposure. Pairing cured meat with vitamin C-rich foods may help offset some nitrosamine formation. Researchers describe this pairing effect as modest, not a way to fully offset the risk. Balancing cured meat meals with vegetables and fiber supports a more well-rounded diet overall. Planning bacon as an occasional item, rather than a daily staple, aligns with current guidance. Smaller portions alongside protein and vegetable-rich meals help moderate overall intake naturally. Cooking method, frequency, and portion size are the three most practical levers available. Check for the uncured asterisk, check sodium content, and moderate frequency and portion size. Choosing thinner cut bacon naturally reduces total fat and calories per typical serving. Oven cooking on a rack lets excess fat drip away during preparation. Pairing bacon with vegetables and whole grains creates a more balanced overall breakfast. Reserving bacon for occasional meals rather than daily breakfast aligns with current health guidance. Standard cured bacon is typically less expensive than celery-cured alternatives with similar nitrite exposure. A few extra seconds reading the label can meaningfully change what ends up on the plate. Knowledge about ingredients is not about fear. It is about informed, confident choices. We started this video with a simple pan of sizzling bacon. Behind every package of bacon is a curing process built for safety and shelf life. The evidence shows curing source matters less than most labels suggest, while frequency matters most. That understanding gives you a real choice rather than just a marketed one. At Grocery Science, we examine food through evidence, not to generate fear. Coming up, what is really inside peanut butter and frozen ready meals? Thank you for watching Grocery Science. Stay curious, stay informed.